Scores climate protesters were arrested and detained in front of the Federal Reserve Bank New York building. Tom Negavan reports. More than 100 people arrested after climate change protest on Wall Street in Lower Manhattan. New York City continued demonstrations on Wall Street on Monday resulted in more than 100 arrests. A day after protesters took to the Upper East Side to march against fossil fuels. A total of 114 protesters were arrested and detained during a climate change protest in Lower Manhattan on Monday. Most are expected to be processed and released. Protesters first gathered Zuccotti Park in Lower Manhattan, then marched, targeting locations the financial district. Some tried to go to the New York Stock Exchange but were stopped by police along the way. Those arrested were charged with civil disobedience. Despite arrests, the group is promising more activism during UN General Assembly this week. "This is our last resort," said Alice Nascimento of New York Communities for Change. "We're bringing the crisis to their doorstep. And it looks like it." The protesters' goal is to demand an end to fossil fuel financing from outside the largest financial institutions and the New York Stock Exchange. Despite scientific consensus that fossil fuel burning is primary cause of global warming, world's 60 largest banks have poured more than $5.5 trillion into fossil fuel industry since signing of Paris Agreement, causing climate chaos and deadly impacts on local communities. New York Communities for Change in a press release. Activists said they were willing to risk arrest for their cause. "This is nonviolent civil disobedience," said Renata Pumarole of Climate Defenders. "To make big changes and send a big message to powerful people." Thousands of protesters on Sunday, shouting that their future and survival depend on the end fossil fuels, began a week in which leaders will once again try to stem climate change driven primarily by coal, oil and natural gas. But protesters say that won't be enough, and they directed their anger directly at U.S. President Joe Biden, urging him to stop approving new oil and gas projects, phase out existing projects and declare a climate emergency with broader executive powers. "We have power of people. We have power. You need to win this election," said Emma Beretta, a 17-year-old from Brooklyn with youth protest group Fridays for Future. "If you want to win in 2024, if you don't want the blood of my generation on your hands, put an end to fossil fuels." The Fossil Fuels to End march featured politicians like Rep. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and actors Susan Sarandon, Ethan Hawke, Edward Norton, Kyra Sedgwick and Kevin Bacon. But the real deal was on Broadway, where protesters lined the street begging for a better, but not so ill-coming future. It was opening salvo of New York Climate Week, where world leaders in business, politics and the arts come together to try to save planet. Highlighted by a new special Unite,